Eucleak or Eucleak?
Eucleak, yeah.
Eucleak, okay, by Thomas Roche.
Thanks, Helena. Yeah. So Eucleak is a side channel attack and secure element from Infineon. And we demonstrated it by cloning YubiKey. So first I will define what I call a secure element. Secure element is a small microcontroller that is dedicated to do cryptography. So it's generating and storing cryptographic keys, and what it does is mainly manipulating them. What it has to do is to be secure against what I call a remote attacker, which is basically an attacker that is able to communicate with the chip. And to do that, the secure element stays simple. It has simple hardware, simple software, and also very simple I/O protocol. And but because the main adversary he has to be secure against is a physical attacker, which is much more powerful because it has actually physical access to the chip while it's running its cryptography. So it can control or observe the environment. And to do so, the secure element embeds dedicated hardware countermeasures and dedicated software countermeasures. And when it's able to be very robust against all kinds of attackers, then the chip maker can try to get a CC certification, a certification from common criteria at the highest level, so above level 5. To do so, it requires somehow, or it's much simpler to have your certification when your sources are closed, with the secrecy of the implementation as it's taken as a layer of security. There are 4 big players, chip makers that are producing secure elements: NXP, Infineon, ST Microelectronics, and Samsung. And they are actually sharing a large market that might be a little more diverse than you might think. Like there is a smart card industry, the ID, bank cards, but you can find secure element inside hardware wallet and FIDO hardware tokens that we will be talking about, and but also inside smartphones and inside all your computers under the form of TPMs. But in fact, secure elements are everywhere in many IoT devices and any product that you can find on the field and where the adversary has access to it, and that has to secure very sensible information. Eucleak is a vulnerability in Infineon secure elements. It targets ECDSA signatures. It's a side channel attack, and we demonstrate it on a YubiKey. So let's get to it. So FIDO hardware tokens are unique or second factor authentication, and the FIDO protocol is quite simple. When you enroll a security key to your web account, it will generate a ECDSA key pair and keep the private key inside the device. And when you're signing in, then the remote server will send a challenge that the key will sign with the private key. While this product is only doing, or mainly doing cryptography, it's easy to fall inside the adversary hands, so somehow the secure element is the right solution for that. This is a YubiKey 5 CI. This is one of the YubiKey 5 series, the most common FIDO hardware token. And I bet some of you have some YubiKey in your pocket. And here I have opened it, and you can see that there is a single chip inside this product. It's a SLE78, which is an Infineon secure element. Studying this chip inside the FIDO protocol is not that easy, so we found Java card, an open Java card from Phaeton that has the same or a similar SLE78. So when I'm talking about side channel here, I'm talking about physical side channel. So this is the setup. You have a smart card reader, and we have the smart card here, and here is a probe, an electromagnetic probe. On the right side, you have the die of the SLE78, and on top of it, we have the electromagnetic magnetic probe that is capturing the radiation of the chip while it's doing ECDSA signatures. And this is a ECDSA signature from the EM radiation point of view. So, well, I guess most of you know what ECDSA is. If you don't, the only thing you have to know is that there is a secret key D, and that will sign a message H. And the first thing this signature does is generating a nonce K. And the secrecy of the nonce is actually as important as the secrecy of the private key. If you know the nonce and if you know the message and the signature, then you can compute the private key. The nonce is manipulated twice. First in this scalar multiplication, and this is the most expensive part of the ECDSA signature, but also it's modular inversed at the end of the computation. So if we go back to the EM trace, we can see this large computation of the scalar multiplication, and when I zoom at the end of the computation, you have this modular inversion, which is the inversion of the nonce. By studying these side channel traces, we were able to understand how this implementation was done. And in fact, Infineon chose to use the extended Euclidean algorithm to do that. In many products, when the modular inversion is done by the EEA, it's in fact a binary version of the EEA, which is more efficient. But here, Infineon chose to use the classical textbook extended Euclidean algorithm. And certainly because binary version have been shown to be sensible to side channel analysis. So this is the classic algorithm. And we also understood by studying the traces that in fact the nonce before being inverted is blinded with a mask. So it's multiplied by a random, and then it goes through the EEA. However, Infineon chose to select a random that is only 32 bits long, which is an error because if from side channel leakage I can infer the value of K prime, the masked nonce, then I can brute force all the possible masks and test all the possibilities that I have there, and I will find my private key. But we didn't stop that, or we could completely understand how the implementation is done, and mainly how this Euclidean division here is done. And surprisingly enough, Infineon developed their own Euclidean algorithm for the division, and certainly because it doesn't have so many branches. And but however, there was still timing leakage in the execution. So we could find tiny timing leakage that could relate to the values that I highlighted here. And to sum up, we have the timing leakage in the traces. We can infer information about the inner computation of the modular inversion. We have shown that we have seen that the nonce is blinded, but only with a 32-bit mask. So in our work, we have built a new side channel attack that is adapted to the EEA, and shown that the extracted information could actually be enough to recover the masked nonce and then do the attack. We tested the attack on the Phaetian Java card and then showed that we could clone the UBK using this attack. So, yay. But we didn't stop there, and we studied all the families of secure elements of Infineon, and we could show that even though the SLF78 is one of the main families, there is two other families, and for all of them, the cryptolib of Infineon didn't change with respect to the modular inversion. So the vulnerability is there for all this implementation. And it had been there for 14 years, and all this product went through about 80 CC certifications. So in conclusion, we have a side channel attack that requires physical access to the chip for a few minutes, and of course it works for Infineon secure elements with the Infineon cryptolib on it, and not for other products. So when we started to study the UBK, we actually take a step back and saw that, in fact, all secure elements from Infinium are vulnerable, and then the attack could be potentially applicable to many, many more applications, for instance, where the ACDSA is used, which is, yeah, pretty wide. The mitigations are pretty simple. So Infinium implemented the logical patch, which is to increase the mass from 32 bits to the size of the electric curve. There are mitigations for your UB key if you don't want to change them. And just I want to finish with the timeline of the project. It spanned over 2 years, but it represents a few months of work. And 90% of this work was actually the reverse engineering of the implementation. We did a responsible disclosure with YubiKey and Infinium, and during this responsible disclosure, YubiKey Ubico changed its cryptolib from Infinium to its own cryptolib, and Infinium patched its own cryptolib. We released a full write-up in last September, and I'm happy to announce that a conference paper about this work will be published at S&P this year. So while Ubico was pretty open about what happened to its product, Infinium didn't do any public statement. And what we have publicly about this vulnerability is just, in fact, the update of all the CC certificate of the secure element of Infinium. The takeaways we have here is pretty classical, like closed source of the secrecy of implementation is a real security layer. However, you should not rely on it. And its main side effect is that if you have a vulnerability in your code, closed source will make it possible that it will stay in your code for a very long time. Well, that's it for me. If you have any question.
Thank you. Any questions? I see somebody standing up. Is that for a question, maybe?
Thanks, great talk. So if I have devices with still old Infinium chips in there, are they now all essentially vulnerable because they cannot be patched?
Yeah, they cannot be updated. You
Okay.
have to buy a new device.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's go buy new devices. Another question? Yeah, okay.
I have the RSA module, like the RSA randomness generation on the Ubico, like the return of the coppersmith attack, if I remember correctly. Was that on the same chip line as this one?
You're talking about the prime generation for the
Yeah, that one.
Okay. No, it's not. It's an older version of the secure elements.
Okay, so it's not like they didn't learn anything from, well, the certification entities didn't.
Well, it's very different attacks. The Roca attacks is very specific to Infinium design their own prime generation, and doing so, they did a mistake, obviously, and it ended up in being the Roca attack, which is not a side channel attack. It's not related to how they implemented the stuff. It's just how they designed the stuff.
I would say it is related because those are both mistakes that are made, right?
Yeah, but different mistake though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you planning any future work on chips from other manufacturers such as NXP or any of the other ones?
Yeah.
Oh,
why not?
I'm curious about the future results.
Thank you.
Maybe one last question from over here. Did the certification labs react in any way? And did they kind of, have an idea of why this went through and they didn't see it?
Well, they did have a reaction because they had to work a lot to produce all this new certificate. This is the celerity of this certificate production is not something normal in common criteria, and yeah, I wouldn't talk about for them, but I think the problem is the time you have to do the certification and how you do it. So it's the same lab have been doing all the certification for Infineon from the start. So they are looking at the diff from the last version to the new version. So what changes is what they are looking at. So what doesn't change?
Okay, so
Yeah.
if they missed it in the first place, then it can
Yeah.
stay in there for.
Yeah,
very
looks like it from my point of view, but again, I don't
Okay,
know.
so use longer random numbers, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you.